What's up, people? This is the Believe in Saints podcast presented by FanDuel. I am Mario Jerez, Spanish play-by-play voice of the Saints, native New Orleanian. She is my co-host, Erin Summers, seasoned reporter and analyst covering the Saints and the NFL. And today we are very excited to welcome our next guest, former Saints quarterback, 13-year NFL veteran, father of 6. He is Luke McCown. Luke, thank you so much for the time today, my man. How are you?
No, you bet, Mario. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to the conversation. And we're going to ask you a ton of questions about being in the league for so long and having the unique perspective of being a backup quarterback. But I also want to establish to the audience that you were a gamer throughout your career. You were a clutch performer. And off the top of my head, I know that you set records at Louisiana Tech. You led them to a bunch of big wins in college, including some conference championships. You had a strong performance in place of Drew Brees in a game against the Panthers back in 2015, the only game Drew Brees missed for like a 13-year period.
Yeah.
And I know you came to the Superdome as a member of the Bucks, and I think it was 2007, filling in for an injured Jeff Garcia, and you went off against the Saints, your future team. Led Tampa Bay to a win, had some big plays in that one. So long-time backup quarterback, but a clutch performer. That being said, I want to ask you right away about this Saints team. There's a lot of optimism, especially around your position, the quarterback, and Tyler Shough, as he enters his first full season as a starter. Whether it's him, whether it's the second year, Kellen Moore, whatever it may be, what are you most looking forward to watching when it comes to the Saints in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, as it pertains to Tyler, just the growth. There's so much growth that happens between years 1 and 2, and especially when you kind of finish the season the way that Tyler did, and kind of on an uptick, and he was really ascending into that position. Now, a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of evaluators, a lot of coaches will tell you you don't really know what you have in a quarterback position until you get 17 starts under your belt, right? A whole season worth of starts, and so he's halfway there. And so the first half of this season will mean a lot. But there's still, for those Saints fans that might be watching and kind of curious, and there's still going to be some of this a little bit, right? He's still a young player, but again, there's going to be first half of this season, where he'll still kind of try to feel out that role a little bit more. I do think that you'll see. I mentioned this the other day. I do think that you will see a little more ownership probably from Tyler earlier than maybe you thought you would. As far as the offense goes, I think that'll have a lot to do with how long Alvin is out, how long AK is out with this injury, how long Jordyn Tyson is out with this injury. I think that in and of itself will kind of force Tyler to kind of grab the reins a little bit more, and be a little bit more of a prominent figure, if you will. Not that he's not; he's a starting quarterback on the team, but just kind of grab that and that leadership role. He'll take more responsibility on the offense. As far as situationally, as far as the game goes, it'll flow through him even more so now than probably it might would have. Key third down, stuff like that. That you're going to really focus on what Alvin does best out of the backfield and things like that. You're going to see Tyler have to take a little more ownership of that now.
This is something that Mario and I have discussed, and it's how much they're going to lean into Tyler Shough as a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
Because we saw him utilize that area of his game, maybe out of necessity at the end of last season, because there was limited players on the field. He was trying to scramble to get out of certain situations and extend plays. How much would you like to see the Saints lean into that and maybe set up some designed runs for Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the modern day quarterback position. I think there's some amount of necessity that comes with that. Mm-hmm. Especially when you have a young body, especially when you have a physical, talented guy that can handle some of that. The issue becomes when we as quarterbacks begin to think that we can do that on a regular basis, right? And so you hear it all the time. Your greatest ability is your availability. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to ever kind of paint this light of this Taysom Hill type. Tyler's a big guy now. I'm 6'4", 215. Tyler's every bit of 6'4", a little bit more than that probably. He's bigger than I am, and so he can handle that, and he's a very good athlete, so he can handle that. But I still believe that his power is between the tackles, 6 yards behind the center. I think right there in the pocket's where he needs to be, and then let his creativity manifest itself right outside the pocket, in needed situations. But I do think that when you invite the quarterback to run the ball, now the game becomes 11 on 11. It's not 11 on 10. And so that's always a plus, right? Mm-hmm. That's always a plus. So I think there will be some of that. I think some of the things that Tyler showed last year and his ability to get outside the pocket and be smart with his body, I think that provides some relief, some confidence, some assurance that he won't be reckless or careless with the hits that he takes. And again, that comes with some of the maturity that he has, some of the age that he has. He's gonna. Mm-hmm. He's kind of going to know when to, when to call it and go, enough is enough. I'll get down and we'll move on to the next play.
Yeah. And a lot of what you're saying is based on experience. Like you said, he's inevitably probably going to face some, adversity in some of these games and possibly some losses. For you in your career, it looked a little bit like you were thrown into the fire to an extent early on with Cleveland. Then you got to Tampa, played for John Gruden, and your experience through those times really showed, right? And maybe you can apply this to Tyler going into his second season. But when you were a young quarterback, was there anything in particular that kind of made the game slow down for you, made you more comfortable to feel like you could do this in the league?
Yeah, there's no, everybody talks about that for young quarterbacks and when does the game slow down, and there's no magic potion. It's experience. You have to get in there and experience the rush, experience the flying bullets, if you will. You have to experience the speed. You have to experience the intensity. Because I tell you this, it's dramatically different from preseason game 1 to preseason game 3 to opening day to week 9 to division rivalry, right? Mm-hmm. To this game wins us the division, to playoff games, et cetera, et cetera. It always, and I felt this throughout my career, even when I wasn't playing, standing on the sideline. The furthest I got was with the Falcons in 2012 to the NFC Championship game. And I didn't think, like, divisional round was a pretty big deal. Wild card round was a pretty big deal. I've been in some playoff games. Man, I didn't think there would be another level that the intensity and the speed could go to, and it does. And so every level of play that you experience, there's no way that you can just kind of, if there was a magic potion, you could bottle it up and it'd be priceless, right? But you have to experience those things. And so the meaningful games towards the end there, right, where there was still a sliver of hope that maybe there's a chance at playoffs or whatever. So there were some meaningful games where the pressure was a little higher, the intensity was a little higher. But wait till it's week 14, week 15, and you've got to go to Carolina and you got to go to Tampa Bay, and whoever wins this game seals the South, mm-hmm. right? And you don't. There's no way to manufacture that in practice. You just have to experience it. And so I think for Tyler, going into year 2, it's leaning on the experiences you had through 9 starts in year 1. They were great starts, but you're just kind of out there playing. Like you kind of know but you're just leaning on instincts. Now, add the instincts to experience, and let's see how good you can be, right? I think that's what everybody's kind of expecting, but you just have to do it. You just have to experience it, and then. But I think his confidence level should be sky high. I think the organization has shown in how they drafted, how they did free agency, all the things that he's the guy. And we're going to build around you. We're going to put pieces around you. We're going to bring in a plus, free agent running back. We're going to bring in an A+ draft pick, high in the draft at receiver. We're going to do things to secure get everything out of you as a second round pick that we can get out of you, right? And you got to feel really good about that if you're Tyler Shough.
You mentioned experience, and coming up on the end of the preseason here, one more preseason game. How valuable is it for the starters to get time in that last game? And are these joint practices that they've had, 3 of them this preseason, are those enough reps? And does that equate to being ready for week 1?
Yeah. So a lot's being talked about joint practices right now, right? A lot in regards to players, and I would argue coaches view joint practices as more valuable than preseason games. They won't ever replace them. Preseason games make a lot of money, so they won't ever replace them. But you hear rumblings of fans that the starters aren't playing in these games, and the reasons why are you can get a lot more situational work done in joint practices. You can decide that today or this period is a third down period, and instead of waiting on 6 third downs in a game or 8 third downs in a game that you might get, you can get 15 or 20 reps at third down in a joint practice. You can get a whole period, you can get a whole day, a whole afternoon of practice of red zone or 2 minute. So you get a lot more situational work in joint practices than you do in the game. The one thing that you don't get in the game is the finality of the result of the play, right? That's what you don't get in joint practices that you get in the game, is the finality of the result of the play. So if I throw an interception, it doesn't really cost me anything in a practice. If I fumble a ball, if I miss a block, it doesn't really cost me anything in practice. And so I do think there's an element of starters that haven't played in preseason games feeling the need to make a block, pick up a blitz, complete a pass, catch a punt. I do think the need for that is there because of the finality of the result of the play. You only get one of these. Maybe the only time you get that opportunity in the game, right? And it could be the difference in winning and losing. Those things you can't replicate in practice. And so the necessity of playing in preseason games for starters, albeit 1 series, 2 series, whatever it is, I think is there. I don't think that you can argue that away, not from a execution standpoint outside of understanding the finality of the result of the plays. That makes sense. I think that adds a little bit of, I got to make this throw. I got to be locked in on this third down with this pressure coming over in the back, skinning across the. I got to be locked in on it, because if I don't, then my team is not on the field anymore, right? As opposed to how practices are viewed that way.
For sure. And we'll see what happens in this last preseason game, Luke. But as things stand, I think Spencer Rattler will be the second string quarterback going into the season. And we've already seen a lot of him. And I'd be curious to see what he could do with this iteration of the Saints if he did have to go in, which obviously no Saints fan wants. But if Tyler Shough were to miss a game or two, do you think Spencer Rattler is capable of going in there and being himself and leading this team to wins if he has to?
Yeah, I do. I think, and I talked to a lot last year about Spencer. I think he's more than qualified talent-wise. I think that he played really good ball in the first 6 games last year. I really do. I think he played good ball. Wins and losses didn't equate to it. I don't think that the change from the quarterback position necessarily was because he was somehow playing bad football. I think that they were 0-6 or whatever the record was. It wasn't, and so it warranted, like, hey, we got a second round pick sitting here. We got to do something different, right? Let's see what we got here, and time to go with him. But I think Spencer's a very good player. I think that with, like you said, this iteration of the Saints roster and the weapons and the people, and give him a full healthy roster, I would be quite okay with Spencer playing should something happen to Tyler.
You were also really big on wide receiver Jordyn Tyson pre-draft. You thought he was the best receiver in the draft. A lot of people overlooked him potentially because of the injury history. Now the Saints are dealing with him unable to play for a good chunk to start the season. What do you make of that situation? And should Saints fans be worried?
I think that it's fair to be worried. Like, he had a knee, he had, a few nagging things in college, right? So that's fair. I would never say that's not that's not fair in any way. But I think that I said this about a young guy I was talking about in college the other day. Sometimes this is what John Gruden used to say about Joey Galloway. When you have a Ferrari, you don't put regular unleaded gas in that Ferrari. You just don't drive it with unleaded gas. It's going to perform better, not when it's driven every day, but when it has a little time off. It rests in the garage for a minute. You cover it up, you make it feel nice, whatever. You put premium gas in it, though. And so I think these young receivers that come in that are wildly talented have to figure out what kind of gas they run on. They kind of got to figure out how my diet has to look, what my rest has to be like, how much volume in terms of how much time I spend on the field as opposed to how much time I spend in recovery. What goes into that? Now, I'm not saying he doesn't do any of that. I don't know. But what I am telling you is that this uptick of injuries regarding young players throughout the league, there's a reason why the Drew Breeses and Tom Brady's, and I know they're not receivers. I know they're not. Those two aren't Ferraris in their body. Okay, that's different. But the guys that last a long time, they have figured the special sauce out with recovery, and with sleep, and with diet, and the whole nutritional thing. And again, I'm not saying that I don't know. I don't know what Jordan's habits are that way, but I think there's some element of finding out how my body gets best prepared to play. And there's probably a little bit of that. He makes such hard cuts coming in and out of breaks on routes. I mean, it's incredible. The positions, the angles that his knees and ankles and hips, and with proximity to the ground and coming out of a route and the angles that he takes, it's incredible the positions that he gets in. And so I would love to go, hey, let's hang on those for maybe one day a week, and then let's utilize those things on game day, as opposed to how hard am I working through those during the week. And so and perhaps that's the wrong take, but I think when you're a guy that has some nagging things, maybe has a propensity towards soft tissue issues, whatever they are, you have to kind of understand that about your body. Yeah. And then understand that the goal is to get to the racetrack on Sunday. So I've got to feed it the right way, give it the right rest, so that I'm ready to roll on Sunday.
Love the analogies and love the perspective as well, man. And we know you backed us some great quarterbacks throughout your career, including Drew Brees, who just went into the Hall of Fame. I had to get a question in about him. And I feel like the fans saw the finished product on Sundays. They saw him making that speech, but you saw a lot of him behind the scenes. What are some things about Drew that maybe fans didn't appreciate because they only saw him on game days?
Well, the attention to detail. I mean, it's Drew was, and a lot of these great quarterbacks, which by the way, Erin and I have talked about. I think Drew's the greatest of all time. I don't think it's. I think he's the greatest to play the position. There's never been a better quarterback to ever play quarterback than Drew Brees. Never. Don't miss me with the 7 Super Bowls, because that's a team thing, right? Miss me with all that. The greatest ever, take the snap, throw it to there, make the decision to throw it there, whatever, operate an offense, is Drew Brees. Okay, so we got that part out of the way. But the attention to detail was remarkable. We're talking splits. I want you a yard outside the number, 2 yards inside the number. I need you a foot off the hash mark. Like, this is where I expect you to be in this route at this time, this depth, whatever. The attention to detail was amazing. And everybody talks about his accuracy, and it was, I'm telling you, it's like an alien. You can't. You guys only got to see like 1/5 of what he did. You got to see it on Sunday. I got to see it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? Or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I wish there was a compilation of throws that we could put together from what he did just in practice. It would blow your mind. It would absolutely blow your mind. And so I remember, I tell this story all the time. It's one of my favorite stories, but I tell this all the time. In 2012, when I was here for just training camp, and I guess I finished out OTAs and then training camp before Drew signed and his first extension in New Orleans in 2012. And I was here and I watched Drew make a throw. He's getting pushed in practice, and I watched him make a throw to Jimmy Graham running kind of this middle seam. We call it all go special, middle seam. And I always stood right behind Drew. I stood like 5 yards behind him in the middle of the play so that I could kind of get a view of what he saw, right? Because I didn't get very many reps. So I needed to see the picture. And I'm standing there, and I'm about 5 yards back, and I'm 6'4", and Drew's, somewhere between 6 foot, 6'1", and I know what I see, and it's a wall of offensive linemen and hands and everything. And Drew takes his drop, and he kind of, and he would stand up on his toes, and he would lift his head up this way, and he would kind of look, and the center's getting pushed back into his chest, and so he's got the ball kind of here, and he's got his left arm in the back of the center, and he's up high on his toes, and he's looking around, and he makes this throw, and I'm going, there's no way that ball's going to be picked. Like, there's no way. Because, number one, he can't see Jimmy. I know he can't see me, Jimmy, because I'm looking right where he's looking. There's no way and it's the most incredible throw, but it was a great throw, and there was only one spot you could put the ball in. He did those things over and over again. And I remember leaving that practice and going in, and, of course, my brother and I were still playing at the time. Josh was still playing at the time as well. And so I remember, like, first thing I did when I got off the field was go to my locker and grab my phone, and I called Josh. And I go, bro, you know how we've always been like, hey, watch this throw I drew. Like, it's incredible. I'm like, it's not even close. Like, it's not even close to what we talked about. It's amazing. It is literally like a magician. And you just go, how did you do that? How did you do that? So it's his talent, his physical talent, his mental talent, the work ethic. He deserves everything that he put into it. And when he says the line that he had that everybody kept playing, like, you trusted me with the soul of the city, and I die to protect it. He means every bit of that. Like, he means every bit of it. He literally would have put his life on the line for the people that paid their hard-earned money to support his team, and that meant a lot to him. And so, man, he was. We're talking about him like he's dead. I just saw him like a couple of weeks ago, but he's incredible, and he deserves every accolade that he's ever won. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play quarterback.
You had probably the best seat for many years watching him in practices, right behind him. Did you ever watch him and be like, man, the way that he approaches the game and what he does, I'm never playing for this team. Yes. Like, it's never going to happen.
Yes. There were many times where I was like, you know what? When free agency comes around, I think I'm going to go somewhere else because I'm not playing here. There was a lot of that, actually. But I loved New Orleans. My wife will tell you, I loved New Orleans so much. And there were other opportunities, and we went a couple of off seasons to kind of kick the tires on a couple of different places. And it was always like, man, I don't want to play anywhere else but New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like, that was special 4 years for me and my family, and we enjoyed the heck out of that. And but yes, Drew was. I love Drew. He's super selfish because he never let anybody take reps. He never let anybody get practice time. It was always, you know what I mean? So, but that's what made him great. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, he was a stickler. Like, he genuinely believed, not selfishly, he genuinely believed that if his team and the other 53, 52 guys on the team were going to have a chance to win, that he needed to be there because he was going to give them the best chance to win. Not for himself, not so that I wouldn't play, and so that the other 52 guys on the team would have a chance to win. And that's the ultimate teammate. It's like, I want to be there for them because they work hard 5 days a week. They deserve on day 6 to be able to get a win. And I think I can help them get that. And so it mattered to him.
Man, that's awesome. Y'all had some great teams with Sean Payton and with Drew Brees, and we're hoping for some more of that with Tyler and with Kellen Moore. As I ask you your thoughts about the current Saints head coach, you played for some really fiery guys, John Gruden, Sean Payton. Yeah. Kellen Moore is not that, but he has a unique personality, and he's had some awesome offenses. What do you think of him as a coach off the field and as an X's and O's play caller?
Yeah, I think he's really, really sharp. I think he is the epitome of a young, kind of ascending offensive guru that Sean was when he got to New Orleans, right? I think he's that. Now, he doesn't have necessarily the experience that Sean had going from New York to Dallas and then to New Orleans. So it's not apples to apples, but I think he's got that kind of mind. And no, he's not. I've known Kellen a long time. Us backup quarterbacks stick together, and so I've known him a long time, and that's who he is, and he's okay being who he is, and he lasted as a quarterback in the NFL with that type of personality, where it's generally like, hey, you sit in the huddle, you got to show some assertiveness, and that's never been who Kellen was as far as that goes. It's not that he can't hold a room, and I think that's, if you ask players, they'll tell you, like, he gets your attention. He gets it a different way, but he gets your attention, and he makes you want to play for him. And so I like everything that Kellen brings to the table. I think that he's still a young coach, a young head coach, still a lot to figure out, still growing. Kind of the same thing as a quarterback. You don't get the experience unless you get the experience, right? You don't gain an understanding of how better to do it unless you go through it. And so there's a lot of that going on from a lot of the aspects of the team. But I guess the silver lining is that's happening everywhere in the South, right? Yeah. There's the Panthers are still trying to figure out. I mean, Bryce Young has kind of been ascending here, had a better year last year, but there's still a lot of Dave Canales and him figuring things out, right? The Bucks just lost Mike Evans and Levante David, and they've got some new things that they're trying to figure out, right? And so new head coach, quarterback, kind of carousel going on in Atlanta. So that's just kind of par for the course, certainly for the NFC South. And so I don't think it takes away from anything that's there in front of the Saints to be had. Does that make sense? I don't think that it's going to take away in any way from the opportunity that they have in this season, just because it's a young coach. I think you look across the board and you could point at a bunch of different things throughout the South. I think the Saints are in a really good position.
Looking at the NFC South, I want you to fill in the blank for me. If the Saints do X, they will win the NFC South. What does it have to be?
Number one, be a dominant defense in the run in the pass. Now, the last 2 years have kind of been notching their way up inside that top 10 as a total defense, right? And we talked about that. But what's going to make them different is this pass rush. And if it catches fire, like, it's going to be special. So because you have Bryce Young, who's not necessarily a mobile quarterback. He's a smaller guy. If you can create push in the middle of the pocket and contain the edges, it's going to make it hard for him, right? Baker Mayfield's had some injury issues. He started the season last year on fire, and then as his body kind of got beat up in the later half of the year, you saw the kind of wheels come off for the Bucks. You've really got two, I don't want to call them injury laden because that's unfair, but quarterbacks in Atlanta that, Penix is coming off a knee. Tua's had his issues, right? And so how are they going to transition into it? So I think if this pass rush comes alive and really becomes everything that they can be, and that means Cam on third down, if that's all he's relegated to, that means Chase Young playing a full season. He had 10 sacks in only 12 games last year. That's Carl Granderson, who maybe hasn't quite lived up to everything that they signed him to. like I think averaging about 5 sacks over the last 3 years. That's Jonas Sanker being the star now at 6'1", 210. Yeah. Now you can play in the nickel and not give up anything in the run because you've got a linebacker type body that can cover in the nickel, right? You've got Kool-Aid McKinstry in his 3rd year. You've got Reed and Blackman that are in there, coming back in their 2nd and 3rd years for the Saints. I mean, and then you've got Emerson as an addition, who's had a great camp. Mm-hmm. Big physical corner that can lock down receivers, right? And so I think that those pieces outside of that, Caden Ellis has taken Double D's spot as kind of the voice on the defense, and so I think all of that allows this Saints pass rush to be what they can be. Like, you're not going to have to worry about the back end. Make the quarterback hold the ball. Let's go get him, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think if that defense will continue to climb the ranks, if they went from 19 2 years ago to 9 last year. If they can creep up inside the top 5, watch out.
That's an exciting thought, and I'm glad we got to talk some defense there towards the end after talking so much offense during the interview. Luke, very much appreciate your time, man. I told you before the interview, I'll never forget that commercial that you did for Verizon about being the backup tower. That was some really good stuff, and like we said, some good memories on the field as well with the New Orleans Saints. On the way out here, man, what are you up to? What are you up to these days? I know you're residing in Texas, I believe, but what is Luke?
I'm in Texas. Yeah, I live on a ranch and just kind of work the land and enjoy my time. And I've got Monday night junior high volleyball, Tuesday night varsity volleyball, Thursday night junior high football, Friday night varsity volleyball, varsity football. So, man, I've got one night a week that is just kind of hang out and that's about it. So we chase kids around and we have a lot of fun playing sports and watching them do their thing and then get to talk a little bit of Saints every now and then.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thanks for the time today, and best to you and your family. Thanks so much. And
thanks for having me, man. Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Very much enjoyed the conversation. Thank you as well, Erin. Appreciate you as always. And thank you, the audience, for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating, and write a review. Appreciate the nice reviews and the not so nice ones as well. All y'all are appreciated. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For Luke and Erin, I'm Mario saying thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be back real soon. Y'all have a good one. Who dat?